Hey everyone, we are starting our next session a little bit early. We have Nitch, and she'll be doing a talk on the state of DAO operations and tooling. And I'll let her take it from here.
All right, cool. Hi everyone. So I'm Nitch, and I'm going to be talking about state of DAO Ops and tooling today. I'm currently a research and content writer at 1KX. I do smart contract development, and I'm also a contributor to Metagamma Delta DAO. So today we're going to be exploring the different operational verticals within DAOs, starting with decentralized organization design. And I put design in quotes here because a lot of the org design within DAOs is very emergent and bottoms up, rather than something that is designed like top down from the start. So, and then we're going to be looking at frameworks, how DAOs quantify and qualify value creation, compensation tooling, voting, and treasury management tooling is super important and ubiquitous across different internet communities, and also front-end and analytical tooling that gives people a higher level view of the ecosystem and the people that's operating within them. So DAOs have been called a lot of different things, group chats with bank accounts, internet native communities, organizations, but at the end of the day, it's individuals from around the world that are pooling resources and talent together in order to direct it towards a shared goal. So whether that goal is to build products together, to collect and play, to publish media, to invest, to give grants to different causes, to perform services, or to simply hang out. No matter what kind of goal that these communities want to achieve together, they are facing similar challenges. And so DAO Ops is an entirely budding crypto vertical that still remains underserved. And there's a huge opportunity for projects and teams to create value in all operational arms of these organizations. So the common challenges right now boil down to how can DAOs lower the barrier to meaningful contributions, connecting the right individuals with the right talents to the right opportunities, and then how to maintain operational efficiency as they decentralize. A lot of these teams start off as a small core team that's building a product, and how can that operational efficiency to move forward towards different goals be maintained as they decentralize and give up ownership to the community, and of course how to coordinate decision making at scale. So this is a diagram that my colleague Peter Pan made that some of you may have seen already. That is a common pathway for DAOs to become actual DAOs. We start off with an initial core team with a loosely defined mission. And then we have the first 10 to 20 casual contributors come in, and then they undergo progressive decentralization, where you start having your first community-driven working group that emerges from the community itself, that buys into the product's vision. And then now more DAOs are entering a stage where it can't just be this monolithic like group chat or Discord anymore, and people need to form like different working groups that is serving different operational functions within the DAO. So more DAOs are entering this stage now, and we have some key learnings and different tooling that can serve them. So these are the different operational verticals, let's say, that could form these working groups. And different DAOs have different names for them, but this is a rough idea of the different tasks that needs to be accomplished within the DAO. So you need an engineering, product development team, treasury management committee that looks at how can the DAO diversify its treasury and what grants that they give to different contributors, BD, PR, marketing. And this is a very emergent task within the DAO, and contributions can come from all over the place. So these different operational verticals can form potential committees or working groups, right? So the theme is distributed authority and ownership. So these subgroups of contributors are empowered by token holders to work autonomously towards the DAO's shared goals. And the decisions are pushed to the edges, right? So we see these working groups being called different things within different DAOs. This is the Yearn Y teams, Nexus Mutual hubs, and index co-op working groups. So these working groups are typically pretty small, around 10 contributors. They have decision-making power within a constrained domain, and they're operating towards a predefined KPI that they usually need to submit as a proposal to get budget from the Treasury. They're held accountable to the DAO. And a crucial thing is that they're emergent and needs-based. Something that the DAO might not foresee it needing can organically, be identified, and a working group can form around that, as opposed to a traditional organization where you have different, very static departments where that is being filled by people. And these working groups can be dynamic and can wind down or consolidate with others once initial goals are met. This is another example with the recently decentralized Shapeshift DAO. So here they have work streams, and contributors can see where their skills fit and then start contributing to those different work streams. So the frameworks, so at the beginning, like DAO's 1.0 frameworks, it's very comprehensive. You can define your membership, you can add members, basic voting and treasury management. But early DAOs have had to retrofit themselves into the limited number of frameworks that are available. So now we're realizing that there's no one-size-fits-all solution to manage DAOs, and the structures can shift as these communities scale and their needs change. So working group formation is, for example, dynamic. So they need to, be able to flexibly add tooling and shift their structures as needed. So the next generation frameworks will see to be much more accommodating towards that structure. It's going to be modular, extensible. Plugins can be built after the fact and then added on as the DAO identifies specific needs. Composable with other tools, so can integrate with a lot of the other tools that we're going to be introducing later on here, and then upgradable to accommodate the DAO's evolving needs. So as an example of composability, what we're seeing here is the Boost marketplace on DAO House. So DAO House is a place where one can go and deploy Moloch DAOs. And in the beginning, it was basic membership voting and funding proposal voting, and everything was kind of contained within that framework. But now we're seeing these marketplaces of plugins where DAOs can plug in things like Discord notifications, integrate with Discord's forums where members are notified wherever they live, like let's say Discord, whenever a new proposal has been made. And you can do things like arbitrary contract calls by integrating with things like Gnosis Safe. So value creation is a big thing within DAOs. Contributions can come from anywhere. Many of these tasks, traditional organizations have them, but the core difference is that the opportunity to contribute is open, right? So, which is why value creation is a challenge, and tooling around this would really help DAOs to be able to connect the right individuals to the right opportunities, and for individuals to find work where their needs fit and where they align with the community's vision. So decentralization, it does not mean leaderless. It just means that more people are empowered to take on initiatives towards shared goals. So contributor journey design is a really high leverage point to attract and retain talent. Well-functioning DAOs, contributions can come from anywhere. So people with the right skills should be able to smoothly onboard within a DAO, know what it's about, know the different practices within the DAOs, and just be compensated properly. So open questions around this is, how do we get the right opportunities to the right people at the right time? How do we quantify and properly reward value creation? And also how can individuals foster trust within each other and grow their reputation within specific communities? So well-functioning DAOs right now have very robust onboarding practices, well-maintained knowledge hubs, weekly community calls to onboard new members. Some communities like Index Co-op have a dedicated call to onboard new members, regular AMAs, webinars, and one-on-one with people who are well respected in the community. Bounties and quests are really powerful tools to surface bite-sized tasks for people to start contributing value to the DAO. So bounties are very, the task to be done is well quantified, and a potential contributor can immediately understand the value that the reward that they might get by performing that task. Yeah, and then challenges are around connecting individuals to form work streams. So Yearn, for example, has a Telegram group dedicated to connect people with the right skill sets to form a working group to build dashboards, for example. And then reputation, Discord roles, forum tiers are very powerful tools for people to grow within a DAO and for them to earn respect and maybe like more right access, edit access within the DAO. So these are some bounties tools. Gitcoin is a very widely used one for protocols, Coinbase for communities, and Rabbit Hole for quests. Rabbit Hole Pathfinders is a really powerful bounties tool for people to create content that onboards new members into Web3 applications to get them started within the community. And of course, there's contribution and reputation management systems, as well as identity protocols is going to be a big thing, as individuals can port their identity and the work that they've done for different DAOs and transfer it into into different communities. So the work that people do here for DAOs are much more portable, and they can kind of earn their reputation and build their identity up across different DAOs. So compensation, right now they can be in ETH, stable coins, or the DAO's governance tokens. They can be streamed, bulk distributed, or voted on via funding proposals. If I'm submitting a proposal, for example, to form a work stream, they can even be unlocked when predefined targets are met. So for example, UMA's KPI options are worth more when certain KPIs are met, and people can convert that into UMA tokens once, let's say, some predefined metric like TVL, for example, is met. Compensation can be task-based via bounties, as we mentioned before, project-based, role-based. So here we have DX DAOs, more like standardized compensation levels depending on how experienced you are. So this is a model that's more akin to what you might find in traditional organizations based on seniority. But there's different more emergent peer-based things too, like Coordinate, that allows people within a working group to allocate rewards to the peers that they've worked most closely with. So compensation can be more bottoms up in that way. So the current challenges is now still a lack of standards to quantify and qualify value creation, right? So there's a lot of friction and oversight if they're attempting to compensate contributors from the top down, because contribution can come from anywhere. And also lack of HR benefits and payroll services is a big one. And I think is a huge barrier for people to make the full transition from Web 2 to Web 3. Right now, the dynamic between employers and employees are kind of perverse in that your health insurance, your 401k, your retirement benefits, and things like that are tied to your employer. So a services layer that is more friendly to Web 3 workers is going to be a crucial thing that will unlock that transition from like a traditional a job from a traditional company for individuals to transition full-time into DAOs. So Opolis is an example of this shared services layer that unbundles these benefits from the employer, and all the benefits stick with you as an individual, and you can receive payroll from different DAOs, and your benefits just stay with you, regardless of which DAO you happen to be contributing to. So that's Web2 stability meets Web3 self-sovereignty. Is how I like to see this. And so the way, so like I said before, like how we qualify and quantify different types of value contribution is different across different DAOs, right? They are working towards different goals. They might be spun up for different purposes. So a model, governance movement model, for example, works with DAOs to help them define these value creation from bottom up. So this is Metagamma Delta's movement model. So as a community, we kind of agreed upon this framework of how much weighting do we want to assign to different levels of contribution. So something like this can be used by new contributors to see, okay, like what type of work does this DAO value? Where can I best fit in my skills, and how can I expect to be rewarded for different types of activities? So we'll see. I think we'll see more of these bottoms-up emergent value creation standards, where it's with the DAO as opposed to some externally defined metrics. This is a screenshot from Coordinate, where individuals within a working group can give assign tokens to their peers based on how much value that they subjectively see their peers to be given to a working group. So something like this is very DAO native, in that these compensation metrics are not like have to be top down and standardized across different working groups, but is very localized to the edges. So decision making. So these are voting tools. So the first generation of DAO frameworks come with their on-chain voting mechanisms, where you can submit a membership or funding proposal, and voting by the members directly ties to on-chain outcomes. So if the voting passes, then the on-chain execution happens right away. However, the layer 1 gas costs are often prohibitive to wider participation. And a lot of DAOs have migrated either to L2 or side chains to mitigate these gas costs. And then because of the gas costs, a lot of communities have migrated to just using signal voting, like on Snapshot, Discord polls, Telegram polls, and then an admin multi-sig just kind of has to be trusted to execute that aligns with that sentiment. So the good thing about this is that there's no gas costs for voters. However, it still relies on this like centralized multi-sig signers to execute on the voting outcomes. We also have things like signal voting that turns into formal on-chain proposals. So these are proposal life cycles, which involves like a temperature check that involves discourse voting, Discord voting, Telegram polls, and then consensus checks that turns into a more formal on-chain proposal and voting. So here votes are more meaningful, but it's these proposal life cycles are often time-consuming. So with the next generation of tooling, modular tooling, and the next iterations of the tools that we've gotten used to over the past year, we'll translate into on-chain voting with some multi-sig within working groups, and then the checks and balances that ensures that these the individuals with these execution privileges are still executing in line with the DAO's in line with the DAO's goals. So we delegate funds and executive authority to committees, and we're empowering people with skin in the game to make the decisions, but ultimately also checks and balances to ensure that they're executing on the best interests of the DAO still. So the themes around voting tooling is delegation of executive power to dedicated committees, and And then off-chain voting kind of translates to on-chain execution with new tools like Gnosis SafeSnap, and more recently Zodiac Reality, which allows which uses an oracle to ensure that off-chain votes are actually in line with the thing that's being executed on-chain. So the theme here is modularity and things being able to plug into each other, but it still allows for a more frictionless user and voter experience. And then we have checks and balances tools that holds each team accountable to the DAO. So Kleros acts as a supreme court that has dispute resolution mechanisms. Tally is coming out with Safeguard to ensure that the DAO can take funds back from a multi-sig if they see that they're not operating on the best interest of the DAO. So yeah, the usual life cycle of decision making goes from just informal group chats via Discord, Telegram to voting, and we'll see voting being tied into on-chain execution more. And later on, we'll see that there's analytical tooling that gives people insight into how DAOs are voting and community sentiment around these proposals. So Treasury Management. So DAOs have built up significant war chests in the past year. These are some from the DeFi protocols, and here with investment DAOs like the Lao, Metacartel Ventures, Moloch. So they need Web3 native accounting tools, right? So we see things like Parcel and Multisafe and Llama that helps with things like budgeting and accounting. So it basically gives members an insight into how the DAO is spending its money to make DAO treasuries more human readable. So like how we have an Ether scan for Ethereum in general, we can have an Ether scan into the DAO's treasury that ties specific proposals to specific transactions, and that would help community working groups inform like budgets and how much grants to give. There will be more mature financial reporting tools that allows DAOs to categorize fund inflow and outflow that can help them produce financial statements, for example, reporting or auditing purposes. And these things will become more standardized as opposed to just having to go to Etherscan and aggregate your own information manually. Yeah, and there'll potentially be a rating system to evaluate the financial health of different crypto treasuries as well. So this is a screenshot from Llama Finance, which basically is a financial report for a community token. So you can see here the inflows, outflows, the transaction, and the proposal that helped inform that transaction, and allows DAOs to categorize their spendings. So we'll see a lot more granular and a lot more standardized ways to look into DAO treasuries as we go on. So front-end and analytics, these are like the Etherscan of DAOs that helps the wider community like see the community health check, for example. So how people are voting, governance participation gives actionable insights to help inform potential community members whether or not they want to join a DAO. And it basically makes relevant on-chain data presentable and even capture meaningful off-chain data as well, like from Discord or Twitter. We'll identify sources and delegation relationships between different voters. So a lot of token holders don't necessarily want to actively participate in governance, right? And we see a lot of delegation to student groups, for example, or stewards within the community that have built up their reputation from the ground up. And just seeing a relationship between who delegates to whom can be really insightful for a potential voter, investor, new contributor to understand like the vibes within the DAO. Yeah, so voter delegation relationships can help inform social dynamics. So for example, this is one where with a lot of funds versus student groups. Yeah, so we can see here that a lot of the advocates for this proposal is mainly community leaders, contributors, as opposed to a lot of the voters here are funds. And then for individuals, we'll start to see individuals will be able to port their identity and reputation across different DAOs, and their on-chain activities are transparent. So this is going to be kind of become your on-chain resume, right? The work that you've contributed towards the community, your skills can really be built up and portable to different types of DAOs, different types of work. So something like this for protocol politicians, if they want people to delegate to them, for example, they can point to something like this to kind of show them like their like a work history of how they've voted in the past and what they stand for. So this is a slide that basically summarizes like the key points of this presentation. So DAOs 2.0, very much more dynamic, much more working group based, people splitting off from the monolithic DAO and adopting modular tools to achieve their goals. Operations are a lot more open with good filtering mechanisms, fluid participation, and they are much more adaptable than, let's say, the first iterations of DAOs, where it's kind of like a free-for-all, where there's a lot of bounties and no one knows where to go. We'll have a lot more specialization here. Tooling, instead of being really monolithic, it's a lot more modular, extensible, standardized, and bottom-up. So defined by the DAO or defined by different working groups within the DAO rather than being imposed top-down. Off-chain vote translate to on-chain execution. So we maintain the efficient, good UX, but also the integrity of the on-chain execution and not having to rely on these multi-sigs. And then Treasury Management, we have all the DeFi tools at our disposal, but now with standardized reporting. And yeah, so this is the ecosystem map of the tools that are pretty prominent out there. I'm sure I've missed a few, but that's the end of my talk. Well, we'll get questions here. I'll put it on the slide and then we'll go to the questions.
Cool. So we'll wait a minute or two to see if questions come in. If not,
Okay.
we can end early. So people want your slides. They think this is awesome. Do you happen to have a link that you can drop in the chat to share?
I do. I'll drop it here.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So make sure to follow Niche on Twitter, and we're going to take a short break before our next session. And our next session will be with Index Coop. Thanks so much. Actually, I see a question. Oh, how about human consultation?
Could you elaborate on what you mean by human consultation?
I'm
asking Philip.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe what he can do is ping you, and then we can go from there. But yeah, this was really great. Thank you so much for preparing.
Of course, yeah. Yeah,
All
feel
right,
free to reach out to me.
awesome. Thank you.